Hey everyone, I'm Coach Chippys and I've been a professional top laner or head coach for the past 8 years. During this time, I've reached Worlds and MSI multiple times. Now, I'm a full-time coach with a ton of passion towards helping players unlock their potential and climb to their dream rank. Hey everyone, in this video we're going to go through everything you need to know about how to play around jungle as a top laner. Because as everyone knows, jungle is one of the strongest roles in the game, so if you're able to not only set up your jungler for success, but shut down the enemy jungler as well, you'll start to climb. Because from a top laner's perspective, it's quite difficult to impact the map early game. If you're to roam mid or roam bot, the enemy top lane will gain a lot, and the matchups are so snowbally that if they gain an advantage over you, it'll be quite hard for you to get it back 1v1. So if you're able to set up your jungler and get them rolling, a role that can impact the entire map, you'll do a lot better in your games. And I've got a guest joining us later on that will have a lot more knowledge about this than me because he mains jungle, so stay tuned for him. But without wasting any more time, we'll get started. Now the first topic I want you to familiarize yourself with are the types of junglers. Now there are two main categories for junglers, the first being tempo junglers and the second being pressure junglers. And the main purpose of a tempo jungler is to farm his camps extremely fast and off cooldown so that he gains a level lead over the other types of junglers. Because if Lee Sin's wasting time ganking and the ganks aren't working, Lilia, for example, will be clearing her camps off cooldown really fast, way faster than him, and she'll gain a level lead, and then she can use that lead to dominate him in any skirmish or fight that breaks out. Now that's not to say tempo junglers can't gank. All jungle champs in this game will gank you if you're a free kill. What it means is that if you're able to pull them to your lane for any reason and they not gain anything from it, it's really good. So in the example we gave where you have Lisa and they have Lilia, let's say they're both pathing up, if you're able to cause a heavy trading situation with your lane opponent, where the wave stays around in the middle or maybe even coming towards you, and your Lee Sin's coming straight for it, if Lilia doesn't answer that, you'll most likely kill your lane opponent, or at least gain an advantage through the use of your jungler. But if she tries to counter gank it, there's a good chance you win 2v2 because the pressure junglers are normally stronger at level 3, and also, even if you don't win, as long as no one dies to the jungler, as long as everyone backs off when you see him coming, you're wasting his time. The time he spent not farming is really good because even though there's no noticeable advantage in the form of a kill, she's not farming. She's the same level as the pressure jungler who farms slower than her. So it's a net win because Lee Sin just wants to be getting as much done as possible after he's killed his 3 camps. He'll kill more if he can. A lot of them go for a 4th. But for the most part, if they both kill 3 camps and there's a big fight going on top where they both have to answer, it's always going to favor the pressure jungler. So there are two main things I want you to keep in your mind when you're versus a tempo jungler. The first one being, play around when they want to gank. So on the screen here, I've got their full clear timers of this patch. However, in solo queue, I guarantee it, they will all clear slower than this. This is the absolute fastest you can clear, and even pro junglers can't do this every time. So they're always going to be later. So let's say Lily of 306 at the best. In solo queue, she'll be coming out around 315, most likely. So play around when they want to gank, and most of these champs want to gank after they clear all 6 camps, and Crab's not spawned yet for them. So they have 20 seconds where they wanted to get a gank off. So if you're gankable top, they do 6 camps, they gank you top, and then do Crab. That is their perfect scenario. So make sure you avoid giving them their gank window, so the only thing they gain from their full clear is the camps. Second one being, wasting their time is very beneficial. So if you're able to ever run into their jungle and chase them off a camp, when you're versus a Lilia compared to a Jarvan, it's a lot more beneficial because Jarvan doesn't really need items past his first mythic, past Gore Drinker. He doesn't really need gold or XP that much. He wants to be doing the grunt of his work first 15, first 12 minutes of the game. But if you're able to stop these good scaling, fast farming champs from farming, it's really good. And if you're able to pull them to your lane, you don't just need to run to their jungle and find them. If you're able to make them gank you and not gain a kill, just waste their time, it's really good as well. Now we're going to cover pressure junglers. And the main point of a pressure jungler, it's in the name, they want to pressure the game early. And most of them will either do 3 or 4 camps, because if they start blue, they're going to do blue, grunt, wolves, red, and then look to make a play. They're going to look to gank, invade, or really just get stuck in early game. Because if they don't, they're going to fall off. A lot of these champions scale extremely poorly, so if they're unable to snowball early game, they're going to have no value in the game. And if you're able to deny them the ability to snowball, you're going to win a lot more of your games. Because let's say you survive their pressure, and your tempo jungler gets all of his camps and Crab for free, and then starts his next wave of camps, he's gained an advantage. Or the other side, if you have a pressure jungler that's going down, and he gets a kill bot, and the enemy jungler gets no kill top, That's really good for the map state as well. However, not dying is terrible advice. You need to really know the timings of these champs can come and what angles they can come. So a big problem you're going to run into versus pressure junglers is that they can punish you before you crash wave 3. And the reason this is so problematic is because crashing wave 3 is one of the best ways to play out your lane for top lane, because it gives you so many options. You can either proxy, you can invade their jungle, you can base, you have so much freedom, and the wave will come back towards you, which makes you safe for a long time and able to punish your lane. All in all, it's one of the best ways to play out your lane, but these pressure junglers can deny that by coming before that timer, because most of the time, if you're crashing wave 3, it'll be around 250, but these junglers can be in your lane around 235, 230. They can really gank you on wave 2 before you've crashed wave 3 and deny you from crashing there. And if you're to die on that timer or be forced to base, your lane opponent has a freeze for you slow pushing this wave, waiting for wave 3. They can freeze it and deny so much CS and XP that it's so bad, even if you don't die, just even if you have to base, it's really hard for you. So a lot of the time, you need to think about what the angles your champions have. So for Elise, for example, she has no way to get over walls. So as long as you have a good ward level 1, you should ward level 1 against all these champions. But versus ones without gap closer, it's easier. As long as you have a deep ward in the river and see her coming, you just back into fog of war when she's up and you wait for her to return. However, a lot of these champs will sweep your level 1 ward, and that makes it really hard to carry on playing. And in that situation, you'll just have to stay in fog, get XP, as much CS as you can, and hold on to your gap closer ability, which is not ideal, which is not how you want to play, which is why champions like this make it really hard to play top lane and get your wave 3 in. But versus champions like Lee Sin and Jarvan, they can actually dodge your ward as well. They can just jump over the wall, gank you from try if you're red side, and just make it really hard for you to play. So a lot of the times, if I'm versus a champ like this, and there's zero threat of me being dived, I might even let my lane opponent push, because even though I'd rather push wave 3, my jungler's going down, this is going up, the chance I die or get pressured is too high that I'll let my lane opponent push, and if there's a chance I get dived, then I will ask my team for wards level 1. I'll ask them to ward top dot, then I'll ward river and have all entrances covered, and that'll make me have a lot more information and to make my decision of how to play from when they show my wards. So I rambled on a bit there, but the two main points I want you to take away when you verse these pressure junglers is, firstly, if you deny them the opportunity to snowball, they'll be useless, because a lot of them scale really poorly, and if they don't have more gold than their opponent, the champions can't function. So that's the first one. And the second point is what we covered in detail, is keep in mind they can deny you from crashing wave 3, and if they're able to kill you or chunk you on that timer, it's very punishing. So plan out your early game in accordance to not just what you want to do, but what the jungler wants to do as well. Up next, we're going to be covering unique styles of ganks, and a lot of these will come with experience. Once you get ganked by it once, you'll know they can do it, but you really need to be retaining that information and thinking about it in champ select. So to give an example, a unique style of gank Rek'Sai can do, once you see him in champ select, you should be thinking about, let's say your blue side, as he can actually gank, he can come, say from his jungle to here, and jump over this wall. So now even though you think you're safe, the enemy's pushing the wave into you and you're just chilling here, the Rek'Sai can actually come 3 camps up to his red and gank you from behind and either burn your flash or look to kill you. And if you get chunked enough, he'll just dive you when the wave comes in. But if you were to be aware of that gank, instead of standing here, you would actually stand here. Which means, even though it's such a small difference, if he was to dash over this wall, he would have to flash onto you. Instead of being able to directly knock you up and then flash follow you, the chance he kills you if you're respecting his gank avenue is very, very low. And there are a lot of examples like this. Let's say, for example, you verse Elise, where Elise, even though she can't do a wall jump like that, she is the best jungle in the game at diving early game, because she's one of the only champs that can reset the tower aggro. So if she were to do 3 camps and you were to let your opponent push, he's going to look to dive you here, and if you're to be taking trades, if you're half HP, he's going to just instantly kill you. But if you know your verse Elise and you play accordingly and you stay full HP, the chance he kills you is much lower even with the tower reset, that you may be able to trade kills. And in the scenario where they can still kill you from full HP, that's when you'll need to ask your jungler level 1, hey man, can you path up and cover this? But for the most part, you should be able to do it by yourself as long as you trade well and don't give them that option. A couple more examples just to help you out with this train of thinking is, let's say you are versus a Jarvan who starts red. You might be thinking, alright, he's just going to clear down, I'm pretty safe. And you start trading aggressively in your lane. Jarvan might see that, and he can actually go straight from his red and gank you level 2, because Jarvan, his W is quite useless. As long as he has his Q and his E, his knock-up, he's quite strong, especially with red buff. So if he sees you all-inning your lane opponent level 1, let's say you're playing Darius or something, you start ghosting him down, he can look to all-in you on that timer. So when you visit a champion like Jarvan, you would probably want the try level 1, because he's not going to jump over this wall, wait 12 seconds, 15 seconds for his combo, and then gank you. That's just too much time not farming. But if he's able to go straight from his red to your lane, collect a nice little free kill, it's going to be really good for him. So that's another example, and there's many more like that, but the main point I want you to think about is in Champ Select, when you see any jungle champ, think about the options they have on you and play in accordance to that. And the final example I'll give, just because it's a little different to you respecting a gank, are champions such as Kindred, Graves, Lee Sin, where they might not just look to gank you early, they might look to punish the enemy jungler early. So let's say Graves kills his red buff and gets level 2, now he has Q and E, he can actually look to jump this wall and look to attack your jungler on his blue. However, in a game where you're aware of that and you warded here level 1, your jungler will see him do that, and now he has the option to go to his blue or come here and ping you to help fight him. He has a lot more choices, where if he didn't see him, and he just shows up to the blue, face checks, gets destroyed by this Graves, he's going to be out of the game early game, unable to help you while this Graves has split the map, and you're going to really suffer. Where all you really needed to do was be aware of what this Graves, this Kindred, Lee, all champions that can jump this wall could do, and place a ward for your jungler, and that'll really help him out, it'll help you out, and it'll make your early game a lot less volatile. Up next, we're going to cover drafting accordingly to the junglers, and this topic is quite important because, like we covered earlier, impacting mid or bot from top lane is really difficult early game, but impacting the junglers is something you can do consistently. And if you're able to pick relative to that, let's say you pick a champion strong with your jungler, or good versus jungler, or even both, your impact in the game will be way higher. And the way you can secure that is trying to get last pick or even fourth pick as a top laner by using the new trading system. And the reason you should be looking to do that every game is just because top lane is the counter pick is the most important out of all roles. So if you're able to pick later on the draft and see their top, their jungle, or even just their jungle and other champs, but mainly jungle and top, you can pick a champion that'll maximize your impact in the game. Now we'll start with how to draft around your jungler. And I won't do a full draft, I'll make it easy for you, I'll just do the top junglers. Let's say for example your jungler picks Sejuani, and then the enemy top laner plays a common champion solo Darius. Now, even though you personally, you might love the Kennen into Darius matchup, you really don't want to be playing Kennen with Sejuani because Merc Treads will be so valuable, and also that's not setting up your Sej at all. Sejuani wants melee champions that will proc her passive, and that makes her a lot stronger in any skirmish or teamfight she's a part of. So even though you might love Kennen for the 1v1, in this scenario you'd want to be playing an AD melee such as Jax, because even though the matchup is more of a skill matchup, Jax doesn't necessarily beat Darius. The Jax Sejuani 2v2 will mean you'll probably win any Herald fight, any 2v2 top that you don't play too poorly. It'll just set up your Sejuani a lot better and give her a lot more options in the game. And if you're good enough at your matchup, you can just go even, and then any 2v2 you're a part of will be very favorable. And it doesn't have to be Jax, it can be any AD melee, Camille, Fiora. These matchups aren't super winning. Fiora's pretty good, but you get my point. These matchups aren't as favorable as Kennen, but playing them with Sejuani makes it worth it. And there are so many examples of this. Let's say you have a Jarvan jungle, you might want to play Rumble, because the ultimates paired together, you know, Rumble ulti stuck in the Jarvan ult is so powerful. And even if they were to play a champion like Nidalee, she is quite weak at ganking, but if you were to set her up with crowd control such as Renekton, now her ganks top are really strong. Or even not even a gank, even if you're fighting Herald, she could wait for you to stun before she spares, guarantee spare, guarantee most likely a one-shot, you're setting her up for success. So I don't want you to tunnel on the Sejuani one specifically. Any jungler in the game has top lane champions that pair well with it, and I can't give you the answer to all of them, you just need to think about what makes sense. So with Sej, Kennen wouldn't make sense, with Nidalee, playing Vladimir wouldn't make sense, right? You want to be physical damage, so they can't stack or resist, and you want to make up for her weakness of no crowd control, so a stun. And because she's a skill shot champ, a point click stun is even better. So Jax, Renekton, where it's really hard to miss your stun unless you're trolling, really good with Nidalee, and the same for any jungle champ in the game, there are top lane pairings that are really strong with it. And once you discover the best time to pick each one, you'll have a lot more success in your games, because you won't be just set up for success in your lane, your jungler will be set up as well, and he'll be given a lot more options. Now we'll cover picking around the enemy team's jungler. As soon as you see the enemy team pick their jungler, you should be thinking, is there any champ in my champion pool which makes his life difficult? So let's say, for example, they pick Lee Sin, who's a very mobile champion, but for the most part, he wants to be diving into these fights and trying to get a good kickoff. Now, if you were to pick a champion such as Poppy, whose W blocks dashes, it's going to be really hard for him to do what he wants to do. If he ever Qs in, gets blocked, he can't W away, can't flash away. He's a sitting duck. He'll probably die if he ever engages anywhere near you, as long as you're with your team. And it's not just for skirmishes or teamfights as well. Lee Sin vs Poppy is almost impossible for you to get ganked top. As long as you don't waste your W, it's really hard for him to get onto you. He can't W kick you, he can't Q onto you. You're basically ungankable from this champion as long as you're not playing super disrespectfully and wasting your cooldowns. It's really hard for him to have any option top, and even hard for him to fight Herald or do any skirmishing topside as long as you're picking in accordance to what he picks. And there are many examples of champion interactions like this. Let's say, for example, they pick Graves or Kindred, whose main damage source is auto attacks and they have no crowd control. That's the best time to pick a champ like Jax, because as long as you have discipline with your E, you're almost ungankable. But picking around the enemy jungle is not just your champion's kit countering their champion's kit. There's a lot more to it. So to give an example, let's say they pick Elise and even Renekton. In this scenario, even though your favorite champion might be Nasus or Kayle, something like this, you definitely don't want to be picking them here, because you're not going to get pushed versus the Renekton, and Elise is one of the best jungles in the game at diving early game, because she can dodge tower shots with her E and reset the aggro. So if you're to play Kayle or Nasus here, who really want to scale, you're most likely not going to get to your strongest point, or you're most likely not even going to be able to get level 6 before you die. So when you see a lot of dive threat on you early game, even though you might love these scaling champions, you might need to pick accordingly and play, even if you only play scaling champs, you might want to pick one that can survive the dive. So Renekton and Elise vs Ornn, it's quite hard for them to dive you, and even if they do, Ornn does a lot better with less gold than Kayle or Nasus, because he's still got so much crowd control, hard engage tankiness in his kit, that even if he gets behind early game from the strong early combo, he's still going to be useful in the game compared to the Kayle and Nasus. So it's not just champion spells countering their spells like Poppy W vs Lee or Jax E vs auto attackers. It's also the enemy jungler's game plan and your champion's game plan that you need to be keeping in mind. Our next topic is going to be making it hard for them. And for this, I have a very special in-person guest, Schönfire. And for those of you who don't know him, he's a multi-rank 1 jungler, and he's played in the LCS, he's played at Worlds. He's a pretty good jungler is what I'm trying to say. And he's the guy that taught me this concept, and now he's going to teach it to you.
So what makes it hard for a jungler to gank you, and what makes it easy? So when I think about what makes it easy as a jungler to gank a top laner, it's generally when, first of all, they don't ward at all, which happens at all levels of play, like even in challenger games. The other aspect of bad use of wards is the ward timing. So sometimes people will ward, but they won't ward at a time where I'm actually going to be there. They'll ward just randomly at a time where I'll know the timer, and by the time I finish my path to top, that the ward will expire. So that's another really common poor use of wards. Another aspect that makes it easy for a top laner to get ganked is bad wave management. So essentially, there's two common ways that wave management is poorly managed. It's either your wave's getting stacked on you, so you're easily diveable, you didn't trim the wave well enough, or the flip side, you're getting freezed on, and essentially the wave is pushing back into the opponent, and you're gonna have a hard time essentially crashing the wave in the next 30 seconds. That ties into trade timing. So if you take a poor trade while the wave is pushing back to their tower, that means they can either freeze or look for a gank, especially as a jungler. That's probably one of my favorite times, is when you take a bad trade and the wave is pushing back at the same time. I'll know in like 30 seconds that it's going to likely be a successful gank. Now, the one aspect that's going to make it hard for you is hard for me, is as a jungler, is good use of wards. So when you want to ward, you want to ward for the future, not for the current moment. I've seen too many times as a jungler where people ward when they're scared of getting ganked, and that's the time the jungler will usually show up in that same bush and kill you while you're trying to ward. Another big thing that I've experienced versus top Korean challenger top laners is body language. So if you have everything down, the proper wave management, good use of wards, ward placement relative to your future wave state in like 30 seconds, you can really fuck with a jungler when you're not showing to be scared or you know your limits very well. That's when junglers usually tend to make poor decisions, including myself in the past, where I feel like this guy should not be so aggressive. And what tends to happen is I either fail the gank or I burn the flash, but we don't get anything, and the top laner gets more by wasting our time, or we get 1v2, something like that scenario. And that's usually how top laners carry in general, especially when it comes to junglers. And that goes for the flip side. When I see a top laner that's really scared, um, that's prime for me as a jungler. That speaks fear. So if you're moving your body really far away from the minion wave, but you're trying to last hit the minion, that's prime time for me to just pounce on you. So those are the ideas, general ideas for what makes it hard for the top laner to get ganked and what makes it easy.
Up next, we're going to be covering awareness of your jungler. And what I mean by that specifically is being aware of your jungler's game plan at all points in the game and playing in accordance to it. And in this example, from a recent solo queue game of mine, I'm playing with an Echo. Now, right off the bat, I know Echo will not want to be killing 3 camps and then ganking top. He ideally wants to kill all his camps. However, if I can present him with a free kill, it's worth it, but it has to be free, because he's not like Lee Sin or Rek'Sai, where if they gank and blow sums and get him low, it's fine, because these champions want to be pressuring. He's a champion that needs farm, needs levels, needs gold, so if I were to call him, it'd have to be 100% play. So keeping that in mind, I'm just playing out my lane, as I normally would, and I notice he dies bot, which means he's going to be delayed coming to top. Now, even though in a lot of scenarios, I'd want a 3-wave crash because it keeps your options open. You can base, you can look to rotate somewhere, you can fog of war, make the enemy jungler scared. You have a lot of options if you 3-wave crash. In this situation, I want to dive top because I've gotten such good trades. But diving with your jungler, for the most part, is more beneficial than diving by yourself because you're not just snowballing you can snowball your jungler. A kill on jungle Echo will do a lot more for our early game than 1 kill on top lane Rumble, where I'm not going to really be seeing my teammates for a while. So keeping that in mind, I choose to push really slowly and crash wave 4 instead of wave 3. And because I did that, Echo can be a part of this play. Now, it ends up working out 1v1 because this guy trades so poorly, I don't end up needing the Echo. But the point still stands that I noticed he was slow to getting to top because of the champion he was playing and because of what happened to him early game, and I pushed my wave a lot slower than I would normally to give him the opportunity to be a part of this play. So if their jungler showed up, it's still winning for us because it's 2v2, and also if we were to dive him under tower, there's a good chance he gets the kill, he starts snowballing, and he has a higher chance to carry the game, and I still have my lead because he's killed my lane opponent, made him lose so much farm, XP, and gold, that we're both ahead and we both have a higher chance to have a high impact in this game. Staying on topic, I have another example here, and in this game, I'm playing Camille vs Jace, which is a very volatile matchup. However, they have the Gragas, and I have a Kayn. Now, Gragas, of course, is very good at ganking early game, and Kayn almost has no gank threat. He wants to be gaining a big camp lead and stacking his form before he has an impact on the game. So in this scenario, he's doing Raptors versus the enemy Raptors. I see him ping on the way, which means my job is to not give the Gragas any options. Because even if I heavy trade top, Kayn is not going to come and finish off my lane, and I'd have to get a solo kill before Gragas comes, and it'll just be very, very undisciplined and low percentile play. Where if I'm staying very high HP, just taking small trades versus Jace, getting him lower and lower, eventually when Kayn comes back on my side of the map, he'll have an option, and even if he doesn't take the option I'm trying to present to him, I'm not giving Gragas an option, and Kayn is getting a lead through playing his champion the way he wants to play. He wants to eat the enemy jungle's camps, and he wants to gain his form and his levels as fast as he can. So even though Camille loves ganks and versus Jace especially a range gem, I'd love to be receiving some ganks right about now. That's not reality. I have a Kane on my team, so my job is to not give Gragas any options. And to do that, I want to stay high HP, but I don't want to play like a complete coward. I want to be chipping this Jace down to give my Kane options. I'm not just going to be like, oh, I'm weak side, I'm not going to trade at all. That's a very, very bad way to play. I hate when players play like that. It's more just I want to be playing to my limits. I want to be not giving the pressure jungler, the Gragas, an option, and I want to be making Kane not feel pressured like he has to come. So I'm taking good trades now that I've seen Kane cross to the other side of the map. These trades are not as good, they're more even, but I see Kane as in the enemy top jungle now, so it's more okay. And even though Jace gets moved first because he had his jungler outside the map, and to be honest, Jace will just get pushed anyway, he's low HP from my heavy trading. I'm able to react to this, and we end up getting 3 kills from this play. Where if I were to just have played like a coward, stayed high HP, Jace is full HP, we might even lose the skirmish. And if I were to play too aggressive and give Gragas a kill, this situation would have never come up and Gragas would be ahead of the Kane. But now the game state is almost unlosable, where top jungle mid's very snowballed, especially me. I got 3 kills from that. But Kane has gotten a big camp lead, he's gotten XP level, everything he needs, and I've gotten everything I need just from playing in reality to what both junglers want to do in this game. Now, as usual, we're going to go through the main takeaways in the hopes that this helps you retain the information. First one being, in champ select, think about what both junglers want to do. Now, I don't want you guys to panic. I don't want you to think, oh, my champ pool's not big enough to counter every jungler or synergize with every jungler on my team. That's never going to be the case. What I want you to do, even if you only play 2 or 3, even if you play 1 champion, even if you're a Riven 1 trick, it doesn't matter. You still want to be thinking about what both junglers want to do, because it'll help you make a more informed choice on your rune, summoners, the way you play your early lane. It'll really just help you grow as a player, because you'll see more than just how you want to play your matchup. You'll see what both junglers want to do, and in some games, even if you only have 1 champ that you pick every game, you might be able to set up your jungler for success more in the games where you wouldn't, or you might be able to deny the enemy jungler if you weren't thinking about it. It'll help you grow as a player overall. Even if you don't have the biggest pool, it doesn't matter, this point is still important. And the second point, if the enemy jungler is committing time and resources into your lane, make it hard for him. And we went through that in detail, but basically you never want to be the free kill where the jungler just walks into your lane, collects the kill, and he goes on his day. If he does kill you, he needs to blow everything. He needs to work his ass off to kill you, because you're not going to make it easy for him. You're going to make him lose more than he gains from even showing his face into your lane. And the final point, watch what your jungler's doing and play accordingly. Now, I see a lot of players, they play the same way regardless if their jungler's buffing up or down or showing bot doing dragon. They don't care. They're just playing to win their lane. And although you might get quite good at your 1v1 doing that, it won't help you grow as a complete player, and it won't make your win rate very high at all, because if you play that way, you're a free kill to the enemy jungler, and you're never going to be setting up your jungler for success. But if you're able to adapt that mentality, that what your jungler is doing is important, and make your decisions around that, then you're going to have a lot more success, and not just, you're going to grow a lot more as a player. So it's definitely, these 3 takeaways I think are very important for not just winning your games, but your overall growth. Hey guys, I'm going to wrap it up there, and I hope you gained some value from this topic in some way. I know there may be a little bit of controversy around this topic, because if your jungler is playing very poorly or he's 0-5, 0-10, why would you want to play around him? You might be thinking something like that. But I promise you, in the majority of your games, most people want to win. Even if they're typing something or playing in a way that doesn't show that, they would rather win than lose. And if you're aware of what they're doing and playing in accordance to that, in the long run, your growth as a player will be much higher than if you're just playing purely in accordance to what you and your lane opponent are doing. So I'll leave it there, and I'll catch you next time.